Today I want to speak about a subject that's very dear to my heart, the creation myth of Iunu. Because for many years I've received so many downloads about it, and this myth holds the most essential keys needed to unlock the temple teaching. Creation has nothing to do with the past. It's an ongoing process that's occurring every second of every day. And it all takes place through both netta and number, and that's exactly what the Iunu creation myth is about. All you can see, hear, smell, touch, or taste, every time you make a move or think a thought or feel something, it's the result of a creative process that's just occurred, most often without your awareness. So how can we become more aware of it? And can we be involved in this process? Well, of course, you can. So let's start with Iunu. Several creation myths were developed in ancient Egypt, and for me the most practical and comprehensive of them is the one revealed in Iunu, later called Heliopolis by the Greeks. Iunu sits diagonally across the Nile from the Giza pyramids in what's now a suburb of modern Cairo, where a huge obelisk from the Middle Kingdom still remains in its original location. And at its center stood a now-lost temple that marked the birthplace of the netta Atum, whom the myth heralds as the first entity to come into being. Netta and number are both fundamental aspects of the temple teaching. And in the Iunu myth, 9 cosmic laws are simultaneously revealed along with 9 numbers in a specific and unchangeable order that is still being used today over 5,000 years later. Now I will be speaking about each of the nettas and numbers in much greater detail in the forthcoming videos, but today is just a brief introduction, so let's dive in. The myth begins with the dark and infinite waters of Nu, which contain the potentials of every possible thing in a yet unmanifest state. Then, from its depths, the primordial mound rises up with the tomb standing upon it, making him the first entity to emerge from the realm of chaos. Then, by and of himself, Atum creates Shu and Tefnut, twin brother and sister respectively, who unite to produce Geb and Nut. Geb and Nut then give birth to 2 pairs of twins, Osiris and Isis, Seth and Nephthys, and together they form a pyramidal hierarchy. But still, it sounds quite gibberish and meaningless because we don't know those characters yet. So let me break it down and introduce you to some of these nettas, as though it's a stage production. In the cast list, Nu is barely mentioned as the name of this total darkness. It's like the curtain going up at a theater where there's still no light on stage. And by holding the darkness for a while, each member of the audience goes into their own imagination, wondering what's going on. This already tells us a lot about the character of Nu. It is that dark unknown that many people aren't ready to face yet. But by its sheer absence, this desolate void invokes your curiosity, your imagination, because every possibility exists in it, and intuitively you know that. Suddenly a spotlight appears, and rising up from the void on top of a pyramid is Atum, the very first entity to manifest in the cosmos. Atom translates as our word atom, the tiniest thing our human mind can conceive of. Effectively, he's the building brick of planet Earth, since everything we know is made up of atoms. So working with atom means working with atomic energy. Back on stage now, picture yourself as atom coming out of that void and being blinded by that dazzling spotlight. And the sheer emptiness demands your own presence. Then the realization of your utter solitude stimulates the first desire, the desire for an other, which brings about the greatest mystery of all, how the one becomes two, or the splitting of the atom, as Atum miraculously generates the twins Shu and Tefnut by and from himself. Shu and Tefnut represent space and time as completely abstract principles, and together with Atum, they make a trinity of ungendered netters that symbolically form a triangle like the benben that sits on top of a pyramid. Shu and Tefnut also mark the first appearance of the male and female principles, which, according to the laws of nature, are designed to unite. So they unite to give birth to Geb and Nut, the first procreated entities. The netter Geb represents matter. Following the male lineage, he structures atoms from his grandfather Atum into specific forms that exist in space, or Shu, his father. Now, the structuring of these atoms would not be possible without Nut, his mythological twin sister and wife. Nut represents the principle of animation or motion. It's Nut who enables the atoms and molecules of Geb's matter to come together into structured forms. Plus, she sets in motion the stars and planets throughout the entire cosmos. And in the female lineage, it's precisely the movements of these celestial bodies that defines what we call time, or Tefnut. Now, an interesting detail comes up here because as soon as Geb and Nut are born, these two procreated netters become so enamored of each other, and especially of their sexual union, that they never let go and remain locked together. This emphasizes the tremendous power of attraction that exists between engendered beings. However, their behavior made Atum quite concerned, so he sent Shu to physically separate them. And as a result, each physical body, like the Earth, is suspended in space, or Shu, and a division is formed between above and below. The lovers' separation also results in the birth of two sets of twins, Osiris and Isis, and Seth and Nephthys, who we'll look at in part 2. But here I just want to say something about twins, because as humans we know that brother and sister share many things in common, yet twins are in many cases inseparable. And after Atum, all of the subsequent netters are born as twins. Yet always remember that the netters are simply personifications of cosmic laws, and this human connection serves to help our understanding of how they relate to each other and work in harmony together. Well, that was a lot of information to take in, and still I only covered half of the myth. But its significance for humanity, especially in today's world, cannot be underestimated. So please join me for part 2 coming up shortly. And when you enjoyed the video, click the like and subscribe buttons, and you can also support the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. And I look forward to any comments or questions you have. Leave them below too, and thank you for watching.
يا احمد